Don't park your spirit. Find the path beyond harmony.
We are so powerful as beings. Nothing can tell you your path except for you. Once you start on this path, you can't turn around. If you believe it, things are going to work for you because every choice you make affects your life. Wherever you go, there you are.
Welcome back. For anybody who watches this show, you know that I bring people on here. Some people I know, some people I don't. But I bring people on here because I am so excited about this spiritual journey that I'm on, because I just discovered it literally within 6 years ago, and it's brand new to me. So I'm like that kid in the candy store. I'm so excited. Well, I have this new friend on Facebook. He friended me, and I was like looking at his stuff, and I'm like, wow, all this stuff he says, it's so much like what I say. And he's energetic and he's excited and he wants to scream from the mountaintops, like, listen to me, this is real. You want to do it. He's young, he's energetic. And I'm like, if anybody can make people want to go on this spiritual journey, J D Duncan can. So I want you to meet J D Duncan. Know your story. This is brand new for the two of us. We're going to meet for the first time for everybody else. But all I know is I've seen your post on Facebook and I'm drawn to you. The stuff you say is the stuff all of us on this journey, we all know at this ultimate level. It's the knowing. So we know it. Yeah. And so you're screaming it your way. I'm screaming at mine. The really smart people, JD, they're like saying it very quietly and people are, getting up close to listen. But it doesn't matter. There's somebody there for every single way we speak this. Mm-hmm. And so what I want to start before we get to where you are now is you're young. When did this journey start for you? Because all of my friends, they started young. I just started. What was your first experience and how did this unfold?
Well, first of all, no pressure. I can. Well, no pressure. I've got this. First of all, young is subjective. I'm actually almost 40. So, it just depends on your definition. So I guess where it really started for me, without going into the whole giant novel that is the amalgamation of where I'm at, I don't know how many people discuss the whole star seeds and that kind of stuff, but I've realized, kind of to your point, that the universe speaks one language with infinite dialect. Everything is saying the same thing, no matter where you're looking, what you're looking at. And that's intentional. It's on purpose. And while most people are pointing out the different dialects and saying your dialect is wrong, instead, if people just realize that everything is saying the same thing and it's intentionally said in a way that it can reach everybody in a way that will resonate with them. If you just focus on what it means to you and your message, and just simply being the change that you want to actually see, and then just allowing the literal vibrations of the physical universe to, in sympathetic harmony, rise to meet you. So I guess starting off, that's the best way I've ever heard it said. With the starseed stuff, I'm still relatively new to it too. I would say my journey the last 2 years has really been my spiritual journey. But I started off with a really traumatic childhood. When I was kicked out of my house when I was 12. I've lived on my own since I was 12. I stayed with my grandpa on and off. About 16, I got really bad into drugs and pills, and I overdosed and died. And that was my first experience. And then I had to learn to walk all over again, which as a 16-year-old on his own doing all this stuff is already way too much, I think. But I've realized that's just helping. I say it's not trying to break me, it's trying to temper me. It's trying to sharpen me for whatever's next. And I think me and you are on the same page, and that we're all here with a specific purpose. And there's a lot of us here with that same purpose that are coming to work together to accomplish it. And most of us have had a lot of trauma, because it's our goal here to come in and find the ones with trauma and help them raise their frequency. So how else can you know what your objective is unless you experience it from day one? And that took me a long time to realize that your past has purpose. It's developing you to get to a point where you can then do what you've done for yourself for others. So that's kind of my early journey, if that comes to it.
So I when we had a conversation before, well, just of course, not verbal.
Yeah.
So you did say, so you died from a drug overdose. Did you have a
Right.
near-death experience during that time, or were you so drugged up at that time it didn't even matter?
I already, and I think this is something I've noticed with a lot of people who's in this space that we're in, is time is a really difficult concept for us. We understand it, but it's not really applicable a lot of the times. So my memory is that could be a very physical, that might have just been all the drugs. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I don't have a memory of it, but I ended up having a memory of it later, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
but
it
not at
totally
the
does to
time.
me. Yeah. Okay. And so that started this search for you. When did the search start?
That woke me up to what I call like my conscious experience, like, because everything before that was really subconscious. I wasn't really, I would say, present. I wasn't aware. I didn't have a sense of really the scope, I think, of what life in reality really is when you can look at it objectively, because you're still a child. Like, we're all children the whole time, but there's just, what age are we in this larger scale? So I think that when I died that first time really triggered me into my conscious, me and my wife call it our human being. You have your human, which is where I think that I teeter with now, and then your being, which is your higher state of consciousness. But you'll soon realize that the point is to bring them together and make a whole human being.
Right.
And so that triggered me into, okay, who am I in this world? What is my identity? Like, what am I supposed to be doing? I've had no guidance. And ultimately, it led me, I ended up just packing up my stuff in one day, moving from South Carolina to St. Louis, where I'm still at now. And that was, how many years ago was that? Man, like 18, 19 years, 20 years. God, oh, time.
Isn't it crazy? Yeah.
I don't,
it's like,
I can't grasp that, because it's not, it doesn't feel linear to me. Like it's more of like an image that I have that I recall from time to time, but I don't often do that, because when you're living in the present, what's the point in focusing in the past? And then
exactly.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. So that woke me up my conscious self, and I moved to St. Louis, and I did what I thought I was supposed to do, which is you get married. And well, on paper, it doesn't look like that, because on paper, I look like an absolute dumpster fire for most of my life. It's relative, and I know that. But
it was your life, and we can live. There's no rules on how we're supposed to live this life.
And
that's the whole thing.
And I was raised with no boundaries, like with no guidance, no. Just,
and you were raised, you raised yourself for how many years?
Yeah, and it was the best thing that has ever happened to me, I say to this day. But so I go do what I thought was right and what felt right. I'm not saying it was right or wrong, but like, got married, had kids, and then got a job where I was working in call centers. And at this point, you have to realize that I dropped out of school I finished 8th grade, went into 9th grade, didn't care, because why would I? And then I tried again, and then I just gave up. And so I dropped out, and I've never graduated 9th grade. I have I don't even understand basic pre-algebra most of the time.
That was my weakness.
But we're conceptual people. We understand the literature side of things, the story that's in all things. And it's just, again, it's the same language, just different dialect. It's still all saying the same thing. It's everywhere, which is mind blowing, because I think I messaged you before. My number is 42, and it's everywhere. I see that number literally everywhere.
And now I'm going to see it everywhere too. When people share their numbers with me, suddenly they become my numbers as well.
So I'm trying to stay focused. I'm really bad at getting off topic, but to the number 42, without going into Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, people can read that book. It's fantastic. It's my favorite story. It's so silly and absurd, but there's a message there for everybody. It's bizarre. But 42 is me and my family's favorite number. And so when we were sitting down, me and my wife were sitting down saying, okay, I want my journey after my consciousness to here where I'm at now. I guess I'll get to that, and then to 42, that makes more sense. So fast forward, I'm in my consciousness, I'm going through the motions, I'm married, have kids, a big family thing came up, and I chose to, I wasn't happy. Bare facts. I just wasn't happy. There's nobody else to blame other than myself for my emotions. I didn't know that then, but I do now. But moving from that, I'm like, well, if I'm not happy, I have to do something else, because I can't do this anymore. And so I left, and I had nowhere to go. I'm from South Carolina. I have no family here. My mom lived in Michigan. My dad's still in South Carolina. I have a cousin that lives like 2 or 3 hours away that we rarely talk. But I had nowhere to go. So I was like, I just need a break. So I got a motel, and I stayed in it for a couple of days. And then next thing I knew is that like I was happy. I mean, I was just happy, and it was no reflection of anybody else. But I was just happy, like I was supposed to be there. And that really woke me up, because I realized at the time I thought I was happy because I was homeless. And that sounds bizarre, but if anybody has ever really been homeless, like to a real degree, you'll realize that it can be one of the most freeing, most like no responsibilities. It's just like you literally have no other thing but the moment that you're literally in.
Yeah.
And so I got stuck in that, because I'm like, I'm free. And if people subscribe to chakras a lot, which I've realized, again, same message being what it is, it's an energy system. And if you can understand it conceptually, you can visualize it, and at the very least get placebo effect from it, right? So I operate from my crown chakra almost predominantly. It's very difficult for me to go much farther than probably my solar plexus is. Like I can work through them, but I live up here. So for being homeless, that is a physical reflection of the crown chakra, you know, a non-physicality. And so I felt at home because I could go anywhere, do anything, and I did. Me and my best friend started a podcast, and that I think was his secretive way of giving me therapy. So because to him, it blew his mind that I could be so content.
Okay, yeah.
Absolutely nothing. So we did this podcast, and we took it down, thank goodness, because it was me going through trauma and making jokes about it, because that's who I was.
Yeah.
But that got me through. And then I was a photographer, a freelance photographer at the time. And so to just eat, I would try to find little gigs. And I'm really, I know a lot of the pinup community, and I don't know who's familiar with pinup, but like the old retro clothing and stuff and car shows. There's a pretty big group of them here in St. Louis, and one of them is Kittens of the Culture. And the president of it was one of my best friends, and she is like following my journey, because like you, I post everything on my Facebook, and you can go back far enough to when I was homeless, and this was years ago, and follow what I was posting every single day. Because if I'm going to experience it, the least I can do is share it with somebody. So somebody might say, I wouldn't have done that. Cool. If you're in this position, then don't. You know, lead by example. I'll go first.
Yeah.
That's my mentality.
Yeah.
Now, was I going first to be homeless on purpose? Maybe. I don't know. But
you're sharing your journey. You were sharing it's like, okay, here's where I am.
Right.
And this is
Right.
where I don't know. We don't know where we're going. We just know where we are. But
yeah.
So you were doing a service to people just by saying, I'm here. I chose this.
This is what I'm doing. And this is how it is. This is what it's like to just be organic. And I think ultimately that's all we're all trying to do from the day we are born till the day we die, is unbecome all the things we're not. And that starts by having to let go. And that's terrifying. Like it's scary. Like, and I did it I jumped in. Like I was like, I have children who are literally my soul, you know? And so I'm sitting here trying to figure it out, but I'm stuck in this. I don't even know what to call it. This bliss of nothingness.
Like this, yeah. This kind of this rut, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. And then you have to get kicked out. You have to.
Yeah, but when you're homeless, you just allow.
Yeah.
You know, and there's no other choice, and so you get comfortable, and then it doesn't become trauma. It becomes whatever you label it as. And to me, that became comfort. And because again, I was homeless when I was 12, so this is just circling back around to what I already knew as home, right? And so the president of that pinup club gave me a call and said, hey, our photographer backed out. We're having a car show today. I know, JD, you could probably use a couple bucks. I'll buy you lunch. I know you're homeless because my car broke down. My car got ran over, but it was literally anything you can imagine happened. So I said, fine, but I'm not going to enjoy it. And she goes, fine, as long as you come and eat, then that's great. So I was
drinking when you said that. You should.
I'm not gonna be happy about it, but sure, I'll eat with a grimace on my face.
Fine,
but I'm gonna growl while I eat whatever delicious burger you give me. So I don't have a car, so I have to get on the city bus. And like time, I have very little conceptual understanding of geographics. Like I have no spatial awareness. It's very like if you turn off the lights, I literally fall over. I have no spatial awareness. And
you're a fainting goat.
Yeah, it's no joke. It's terrifying. But it's it comes back to consciousness, and time and space is relative. And once you understand that, you kind of break yourself a little bit, and that's okay. But so I have to get on this bus. I have no sense of direction, no sense of time. I'm in a city that I don't quite understand, even though I've been here at 10 years at this point, you know? And so it takes me to get from one part of St. Louis to where I was going, which would be probably maybe an hour drive. It takes me 6 hours to get to this thing. And that's with me ending up getting off at the wrong bus stop and just saying, you know, screw it, I'm walking. And so I walk. And so I get here and I'm like, okay, I can get $100, eat some food, and then go about doing whatever it was I was doing. I know most of the people in the pinup community. And there was a couple pinup girls there that I didn't know. And I just wanted to get to meet them. I never really talked to them before. I talked to one, and then, and I had to point out, this is a place called Shady's Jack's in downtown St. Louis. It's a biker bar. If you can see what my normal attire is, I know I look like I would be in a biker bar pretty regularly, but it's just not my, so I'm sitting in this dark corner of this biker bar, trying to do what I said. I'm not going to be happy about it. And I'm sitting in this dark corner trying to avoid everybody. This big Viking guy comes and sits down and forces his friendship on me and makes me talk. And I'm not going to say no to this big Viking guy. And then, and this is going to get real cheesy real fast, and I'm really sorry. But
Keep going.
It's really true. This is 100% true. I mean it. Then the other pinup girl that I wanted to meet came into this bar that I hadn't talked to. And the second she walked in, and everybody has felt this, it's like time just stopped. And I mean, it stopped. And I'm usually very confident. A lot of it's bravado, but like most of the time, like I'm pretty confident in who I am. I couldn't even say her name at the right tone because I was afraid that I wasn't saying her name right, even though I knew what her name was. She, on the other hand, was talking to her friend who was saying, I think that's that photographer, JD. And she's like, well, yeah, you've already told me that like 4 times. And so long story short, and that's a story for another time, that's my wife now. But the reason why I had to tell that part is because the universe sent me exactly what I needed to get out of that cycle rut of complacency is what it was. When you look at it, it's just, what's the point in trying if I don't have to? And then the universe and I just got like literally chills talking about it. We're sitting in this motel room that I'm in and out. At this point, I had stayed on a park bench in October on my birthday, and I had slept there after helping start a local PTO for a school. And I'm now here at this place where I don't want to do anything. And she said, okay, well, like this can't be it for you. Like, what else? Like, you're smart, like you're funny. Like, she get compliments, which again had to trigger something for me negative, because, you know, based on your experience, you're like, okay,
what do you want?
Yeah, or just like whatever, you don't know. And she said, all I'm saying is, like, why do you just want this when there could be more? And I said, well, every superhero has its origin story, right? And I have been telling myself that my whole life, that I feel like I can do something great if I want to, but I just don't know what that is, and I'm becoming that. And then she goes, and this is the first time anybody had ever had something to say back to that. She said, but when is the origin story over? When does the superhero start saving? Because right now I can name at least 3 people who need you. And it was my 3 kids. And in my arrogance, in my consciousness or unconsciousness, I said, well, I think if you truly love somebody, you should love them for them regardless. And she goes, oh. And she said, okay. And then she left. And that was the last time that I saw her. We went our separate ways. I was crushed because I tasted something better, that, you know, better than nothing was love. And it sounds so cheesy, but, and I know it sounds cheesy, but like
when you get here though, love is all there is, and you realize it's all this love. It's all
right. And I've lived my whole life through this, as you tell, like I am on spectrum. I work in a very formulaic way. My thought processes work how they should, and I'm very grateful for my superpowers. But like I've always viewed everything through a lens of what we call like Newtonian science, like measurable. What can you detract? What can you take away to find the result? But then I discovered quantum physics, and I'm not saying that I'm a scientist or anything, but like facts be facts, like it is what it is. It's objective, right? And quantum physics is science. So this science matters approach, it has to apply across the board, right? Quantum physics says otherwise. Quantum physics and Newtonian physics, Newtonian is detractive, quantum is literally potential, right? It's the balance, it's the duality of things. And at first I was like, oh, Einstein had it wrong. He called it spooky motion. He didn't even believe in quantum physics. He's not that smart. And my wife said, yeah, but all things have purpose. We wouldn't understand quantum physics if we didn't first find Newtonian. And there is a place for that, right? And that's been, again, balance, I think. And I'm into all of the witchy stuff, like I am. I believe that all things are an interpretation of God interpreting himself. So all things are God. I mean, if you believe in, no matter what you believe, if you believe that God is this perfect, all-knowing creature, then everything is God and is intentional and with purpose. Yeah. And now the real trick is once you get to that level of consciousness, allowance is a whole different ball game. And that is where I'm at. So in a nutshell, what happened is I went after she had left. I said, you know what? I just missed probably the greatest thing that could have ever happened to me. Like, she was my best friend. When I first met her, I was like, she's my best friend wherever she's going. I just want to talk. I can't stop talking to her. And now she's gone. And I'm like, but she had a point, and this can't be for nothing. She's right. I have to do something else. And so I started trying to change my life. Finally, I have a best friend in New York who was going through some stuff, and the one who helped me with our podcast. And I said, you know what, man? I've got nothing else. I need to do something. I need to take action. Let's do something major. I'm going to move to New York City. And he goes, you're homeless in middle America. He goes, you want to come to the most expensive city pretty much in the world, and you want to be homeless? He goes, not to be rude. And I love it. He's my balance. Like he's been my best friend since we were teenagers. He said, you know how they say, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere? I'm like, yeah. He said, if you can't make it in Missouri, you should just give up. And so I said, don't tell me what I can't do.
Oh yeah, that was a challenge for you.
So now, a little clip in between that happened is, so I decided I'm moving to New York City. I have nothing. How much did I have?
71 cents.
71 cents. I had 71 cents to my name. And she remembers this because she sent me a message and was like, I've been going to a therapist and I feel like I need closure because everything happened so abruptly. And, and I just want to make sure everybody's okay. If you're not, it's cool. I just need to make sure that we both have harmony in whatever direction we take. I'm like, yes, I would absolutely love that. One, like, I'm absolutely in love with you and I miss you and I can't stop thinking about you. Two, I'm moving to New York City. And she goes, what? And so we talked, and she came pick me up and literally drove me to the bus station. She goes, so you have 71 cents and you're moving to New York City. She goes, what are you going to do? Like, what? I'm like, all things will be what they are supposed to be. I trust that. And if it's not something that I find ideal, then that's just my subjective view of it. It still is what it is. I can frame that experience however I want. Like, I can be homeless in New York, or I could be in one of the greatest cities in the world, pre-pandemic, may I add, getting to do whatever I wanted to. I can go to whatever building I want and just do it. And so to me, that was an opportunity. It's quantum, it's potential, right? It's not what can't I do? It's how can I do it? Let's not take stuff off the table. Let's just see what we have to work with and pick the right one. If that doesn't work, let's move it around and let's do something else. Right. So I said, don't worry about me. I'll be fine. I wasn't fine at first because I cried for hours. I'll be straight honest with you. I bawled my eyes out. This is 1,000 miles away from my kids.
71 cents.
And 71 cents. And my idea was he's a very great real estate agent in New York City, very high level. I was going to go there. I was going to figure something out. I would get my real estate license. I would start doing real estate license because me and him are both competitive and he knows that I'm better. Just kidding, Jack. If you hear this, I'm sorry. She, I cry my eyes out. She takes me driving around the park, drops me off the bus station, gets me a chicken sandwich at the bus station, which is like $48 for a chicken sandwich at the Greyhound. So we get in the Greyhound and I'm off to New York City with 71 cents and New Year's Eve, by the way. And so if you want to go in cycles of how things are, what they are, I started a new year, new me, literally. By the time I got to New York City, I had paid for an entire month in Astoria in Queens, in cash. So I paid for that. So when I got there, I didn't have to do anything but just be there. You know, I can help my friend do his stuff. I can hopefully get my life back on track, and it was all paid for, because it's a whole nother conversation about like flipping businesses and online stuff. But I had an online business that I had started that I sold to somebody for 2 months worth of the revenue was just enough to get me an apartment in Queens. So I'm there and I'm doing my thing, but it feels not right. I don't know how else to explain it. Like
You're out of alignment. You're out of alignment. Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's just like, I know everybody has these different labels. Well, of course it is. It's called this or it's called that. Regardless of what you call it, it didn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
And the goal was I was gonna get on my feet. My wife I was gonna come back for this pinup Valentines dance that they were having. And then I was gonna go back and then she was gonna come up and we were gonna find a place together. And then we were just gonna fly back and see the kids because we'd have so much money from the New York real estate market, right? So dreamers, yay. So yeah, it's one of those things like God laughs, you know, you have this plan, but it's like, it's not laughing at you. He's laughing because there's something so much cooler coming your way that you just don't know yet.
Yeah.
So I get there and I come back for this Valentine's, and the first thing I do is I go, you know, she picks me up at the airport. And at this point, I'm like, I can't leave again. She's not coming with me. How can I go? And then I go see the kids and I'm done. Like, I'm like, there's no way I can go. But I left everything in New York City. But I didn't have anything really when I left, minus, she's looking at me, minus all the stuff she sent me in New York to make sure that I was being hygienic and brushing my teeth and doing all the things that, you know, I should be doing. A normal person, she says, would be doing. And then from there, she goes, all right, well, we're just going to do this then. And so we started from scratch with literally nothing. In a bedroom. She used to be a barber teacher and a cosmetologist instructor. We started in a room, subleasing a room from one of her old students. And she was going through a bankruptcy. I had nothing because I didn't to start with. And we literally, over the past, how many years has it been? 4 years, we have built ourselves up to where we are now. And that is from a physical life, but through that is really where the good stuff happened, because the spiritual journey is the only reason that I'm here. Like, you know, like, and that sounds very cliche, right? Like it does.
But it is. It is. That's
like
why I'm here.
We always say facts don't care about your feelings.
No.
That's what we tell our kids that. I'm like, I love you and feelings are important, but facts don't care what you think about them. Facts be facts. Like it's just, it's what it is. And so I want to get to how I met you, because that has all been culminating in this moment. And I love patterns, and it's a pattern through and through. Like, and if people listen to this and watch this, you'll see that there's a reoccurring theme in everybody's life, right? So how I met you is, so this is 2 years ago, I think 2 years ago, me and my wife started our own marketing company. This is during the pandemic and stuff, right? We're starting again from scratch. We were negative like $5,000 in the hole. And my best friend, Zach, sends me a link to the CIA document that was released, I believe in 2005 or 2007 on the Monroe Institute about the 70s exploration of the Gateway Institute, right? Like I was done. I love history. I love my whole life. The pattern has been trying to connect all things, you know, like a unified theory of it, not of everything, but of existence. Right. And that's through history and study. Like we don't stop reading. We listen to our audibles at 2 times speed. And I'm not kidding. Like there's just so much information that you have to have. And I know that's not really the case anymore when you get into the science of things, but so I started reading this document and I'm like, well, I have my cynicism, I have my bias, that negativity of, yeah, right. Because, out of body, government conspiracy, like I'm in that headspace that a lot of people are in right now, you know, that everybody is out to get them. So then you start classifying weapons as weapons against you, not weapons for you, you know? And so I start looking in this and I start reading the science of it. And in that document, it breaks down the science, like the physics of consciousness in a document from the 70s. And then I'm like, who is this Monroe Institute place? Right. And I'm like, okay, but there's one page missing. And this was the most important thing for me and what led to here. The one page that was missing in the document, and I could not find it no matter where I looked, was they say, scientists, like researchers say, yes, consciousness, all of this is 100% verifiable true. And it does have purpose within a military construct. So that's a whole nother story. But the one page was missing was, if this is true and this is true, what does that say about God? Right? And I just got chills again. That was the only page that was missing. It wasn't redacted. It just wasn't there. And me being like the INTP I am, or the Libra looking for balance, whatever you call it, I have to know. I need that balance. I need that completion. I need that cycle to end. And so I start digging. And maybe people are finding it easier now that TikTok's here because it's all over TikTok and stuff. I got to this really deep Reddit thread where somebody had been on that same path as me, who said they found a guy named Marc who supposedly has that document. I don't understand social constructs a lot of the times, nor do I care to. So I reached out directly to Mr. Marc Serto, who I have no idea who this man is. Right. I just know it's some guy who supposedly has it.
And you're looking for it.
Yeah. I was like, he's probably a soldier. Maybe he's an old army guy. I don't know, and I reach out and I said, hi, you don't know me. I've been on this path for about a year and a half now of research. I've got every book on it. I've read all the books about the Monroe Institute and this Bob Monroe guy. I've taken notes. I've studied it. I understand it. But what I don't understand is, where is this page? And he goes, oh yeah, sure. And I'll be honest, I don't even know if he sent it to me. I don't know. Because then I was like, thank you. And if you don't mind me asking, like, who are you? If you don't mind, like, who I need to know, I need that balance, right? He's like, well, I'm Marc Serto. I'm the audio technician who created the audio program at the Monroe Institute. And I was like I'm fanboy nerd out. This man is, like I've told you before, like he should be in history books for what he's created. Like, this is a precursor to binaural beats. This is scientifically measurable changes in consciousness reviewed by multiple scientific platforms, and nobody will even look because they say, oh, mumbo jumbo, or oh, magic, or oh, the devil, or oh, all things. If you believe God is all things, then God is all things, and he has a message for you. Wake up, listen, it's right there. And so what did I do? And I'll be honest, and ashamed of it, because I have been living a life of scarcity, as you can tell, for some time. I had to know more. And this was before I met Marc Serto. I pirated the original Monroe Institute things on the internet, right? Because I just had to know what it was. And through my journey, I'm doing this meditation daily, multiple times a day, every single day. And we still do we don't pirate stuff anymore. Yeah, you should have seen Marc's face when I told him, somebody who lives in the world of audio and music, that I pirated software. I was like, I'm embarrassed, Marc. I'm sorry, but all things are God. Maybe don't be upset.
I needed it. I couldn't get it any other way.
Look, we all know that we are all just one thing experiencing yourself. How about you just experience a little bit of grace for me for finding you? No, but so once I figured out who he was, and I was in his groups, and we didn't interact after that much, except me just following his post, starstruck, because again, and when people who know Marc will know, he's the most humble person I have ever met in my entire life. There is nothing you can do to make this man, that I can see, that will get him out of this balance that he has spent, I think, his entire life discovering. And it's inspiring. Yeah. Like it's evidence that it's possible. And whatever we call it, whether we call it mindfulness or in my case, a lot of people say, oh yeah, are you this, or is that trauma response? Who cares? Am I happy? Are you? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Who cares what you call it, right? It's all subjective anyway. So he's posting his groups, and he at one point mentioned that he was making some moves with what he was doing with his platform. And again, me and my wife, we just started a marketing company in the pandemic, and I've been doing web design since I was 12 years old, like since dial-up. I've been doing it my whole life. And I see this opportunity, and you'll know about me, I volunteer for everything all the time. And my measurements of value aren't money, but I'm working on it. My value is, what do I create? What can I help others create? What is my value to better serve others, right? And I think all of us can attest to how hard that balance can be. Like at some point, when is it self-sacrificial? And, and usually when you have nothing and you're homeless, right? I think that's, so I see him mention this and I'm like, hey, Mark, I don't know if you remember me, but I'm this weird guy that found you on the internet who wears a lot of robes and puts I love you signs everywhere. But I might know some people because we work predominantly with investors. Like that's what our niche is in marketing, is real estate and investors. So I probably know some investors if that's what you're looking for. Nothing came out of it, nobody's fault. It just dissipated. And then maybe a month or two later, he said, I'm looking for somebody who knows web design. I didn't even wait. I jumped into his inbox again. I was like, Mark, and I have this kind of energy with Mark too. So you can imagine what that's like. I was like, Mark, I got to do this. You got to know what we're doing. We're creating this new software that's going to be like life-changing. And I just want to do it. I just want to give it. I'll just give it to you. And my wife's like, no, you won't.
Thank God you have her.
He will not just give you things. We have bills to pay and they're currently not being paid. So, and Mark's like, absolutely, I would love to talk to you. And he goes, and I would obviously pay you for your time. Like, that's just me. I get excited about my value system, which is that outer vibration that I can put out.
You just want to serve. You want to serve.
I just want to give
for him.
Yes. If I know how to do it, then I can always do it, which means that there is no, again, limitation. It's quantum physics. If I can do it once, I can do it infinitely. So there's no loss of energy. It's just transference, right? It's physics, right? Energy is not created or destroyed. It's just transferred. And I have so much energy that I have to get it out. And people with different vibrational frequencies, like it's a wave, you hit a wave here, it's got to shift. And if it's low enough, it's going to seem like disruption from that perspective. And so that this year has been my practice, is focus and in control of that energy system, and ties me right back to close this all with a beautiful little bow. He said, yeah, let's have a talk. And we got on a call with them. And now I'm talking to the Marc Serto, the man who, to me and anybody who really understands the landscape of this culture, knows or should know who Marc Serto is. And he's just like, he's like, I'm just Mark. Or secretary, sorry. So I'm following everything he's doing. We jumped into his classes. We got his audio, and the audio that I had pirated was like the OG, like the 70s. So I don't even know, like it was in a file format I've never even heard of. And I know what 8 tracks are. So I don't know what it was. So we get into his program. His audio program is in his very first level 1 that we did. It was, I don't know how many people are familiar that you talk with Monroe Institute. I know you are very
a lot
educated.
of the people I've talked to are Monroe people. That's what's so funny. It's almost becoming a Monroe show. But
and I'm so happy because one of the things that he told us about Monroe Institute is how they're working to position themselves as the front runner of consciousness exploration from a very scientific way. And they should, because they have that leverage, they have that history. And again, I see through the lens of marketing, like I just see life is good marketing. That's all I see. And so I'm looking at all of, again, potential that is there for them. And then you get into that cycle of the age of Aquarius or rapture, whatever people call this end time of enlightenment. We are scientifically, not astrology, like, or whatever, but in astronomy, we are literally in the age of Aquarius. We literally just people debate when that happened. I land more around October of 2019, I think, when we were in Atlanta. Yeah, right around October. But either way, we are physically in a space where if all things on the quantum level are vibrations, right? The Earth is a vibration, the solar system is a vibration, everything is a vibration. We are passing through a thing that is a different frequency. And just like when I say, like, my energy coming off affects other people's energy, it's that sympathetic vibration.
yeah.
Same thing is happening with the earth, passing through a higher frequency that's shifting a higher frequency. Like, it's not magic, guys, it's science.
Yeah.
It is what it is, whether you want to call it that, whether you want to believe it or not. Facts don't care about your feelings. Like, there's a shift happening, and it's affecting the vibrations of all the frequencies within that, ourselves included. Like, scientifically, your consciousness is a measurable frequency. And there's a shift happening. And I know people, I want to say like us, but like, I hate to draw that divide, because you know how we all feel about duality and unity, but there is a divide within a divide, because you still have this, we call them the humans and the beings. Like, you have the ones that are just innately experiencing their human life. And there's no good or bad. That's all subjective.
Yeah.
They're just who they are when they're supposed to be doing what they're supposed to do. Their frequency will do what it's supposed to do, because it's all things will be, you know. But that's creating a divide. And I have a lot of people, because I do share all of my stuff on Facebook. So that draws a certain type of people who send me messages, and I have to have answers, at least my subjective view of it. And so then I'm always researching, and then leads me to Marc Serto, following his group, where Marc shared that he just did this episode with a wonderful Miss Carrie Palmer. And then I'm like, I have to know her. I was like, because like I did my Facebook stalking and was like, who is this? Oh, she's my people. And there's not a lot you can publicly view from like somebody's, if you're not friends, but I just knew, I'm like, oh, this is my people. I didn't know to the extent how much of my people you were, because, and like you said earlier, we haven't spoken really, we've chatted, but the amount of knowledge that you are accumulating in this space, the amount of people that you are connecting that are sharing the same journey, because there is a measurable divide of not us versus them. It's more of an us for them. It's an us for them movement. But you're just innately, like, my journey has led to me building a software that I literally think will change how people function online, and I can make it for anybody and for very little, and we can get this message out. And just as literally we're finishing our software yesterday and we're doing the tweaks today, I meet you, who literally, with your experience and this network, like the universe, one of my mentors says all the time, she says, I believe in providence, that the universe is always conspiring in your favor, right? And if you see the pattern, if you stop and look at things objectively and step back, you realize that everybody has this one thing that has always been there in one way, shape, or form, that has been leading you to this. And though we'll argue that, oh, but that was bad and that was bad, it wasn't. It was what it was, and now you're here. And then you see the pattern of your path and my path, and you see Marc's path, and people like to say synchronicity or a coincidence, but facts don't care about your feelings, man. Like, it is what it is, regardless of what you call it. We are all aligned to be in this, almost this, sounds weird, like a energetic net of some kind of, where we're all connecting. And if you get into quantum physics, entanglement, right? Like, that's literal particles, when they touch, they're therefore entangled for eternity. Outside of time and space, they will always, what one does, the as above, so below, will always be a thing. And that's science, right? And so, as below, so above, that means when we entangle and connect with each other, we are forever entangled. And it's just this constant cycle of unity that we're just seeing these little pieces of, and we get to be like grateful to experience. You inspire me, and we barely met. I thought I knew a lot. I did. We all do. I thought I was going to be able to bring you so much value. I'm like, wait until she sees my dinky Google Drive full of PDFs that I've got together over the last 2 years. And then I can't even keep up with the amount of knowledge that you drop on a regular basis. I am so excited for literally everything you're doing. Like, I was shocked that you even wanted to talk to me, or anybody would, but I think like we're finding our people, you know, like we're just finding
our village.
Our tribe, we call it our vibe tribe. You just
I like
vibrate at the same frequency. So I want to say thank you. That is how I got to you, and what comes next, I can't even imagine.
Well, I enjoyed yesterday. I was looking at your Facebook page and you commented how you're going to be talking to me. And you talk about Marc Serto, like all these people, they look at him and they don't know. And then
Mhm.
I'm looking at some of the comments on some of your posts, and it looks like people who follow you put you on that same plane, and you're looking at him like he's all that, and they're looking at you like you're all that, but you're like, no, I'm not all that.
No, I'm not.
But,
But
but
I'm
we
saying
are
the same thing
all,
about Mark.
yeah,
I'm saying,
yes,
but Mark's saying I'm not that, and I'm like, yes,
yes.
you are. And then I get it.
Yeah. And so it's the whole
Yeah.
thing is what I like is what I'm discovering and talking about and finally having this conversation is I have been led to this journey. I mean, and that's just it. We're led here. We follow
Yes,
the trail of
absolutely.
breadcrumbs.
Breadcrumbs.
When I was going through all of my trail of breadcrumbs was brought to me in the form of books, which is mostly Audible too. And
I love Audible.
you and I have the same energy. That's it. I think, because I'm like, I'm the Energizer Bunny to everybody. I never sit down. This is the only sitting I do. I even stand up to eat. I walk all the time. I play soccer. I mean, I'm just like full of energy. And this, just like the excitement for this journey is just
palpable.
Over the top.
It's palpable.
Over the top.
Yeah.
But it was like, I never saw myself either, because algebra was not my thing for algebra. But the first quantum physics books that were presented to me, it was like, I never thought I would have any interest in even glancing at those. Fascinating. It's just like, it takes it's like all the books that I've read between starting like The Power of Now and Law of Attraction.
Power
and
of
then
Now is where I started.
That one, yeah, that was
Changed
the
my life.
third book for me. And what was so fun about that, after I listened to that and I heard Eckhart Tolle in his quiet voice saying, just be still, just be present. And I'm like, and when I'm listening to it at first, I'm like, bull crap. I'm like, who could do that? Really, Eckhart? I'm like, who could do that? And then within like 2 weeks,
It didn't even make sense. Like I was like, what do you mean?
I was there. I was like, I am present. It was like all of these books became for me, which I realized it's like I would listen to the book, read the book, and then it was like I knew it. It was it was like it was downloaded into me.
Right.
And I became the knowledge.
I explain it as it feels like remembering more than
I
learning.
put dash memory, remembering.
Yeah, you just feel like you remember, like you already knew that, because your first instinct is like, oh yeah, well I knew that.
Yeah.
But did you? Well,
that's just it. Yeah. It's like we're peeling back the layers. So you're not the science side. And for me, I was not of the belief of a thing called a God, because I never went to church a day in my life. 5 dads, not one went to church. So we never went. And so I've been brought through this life with all these people who've gone to church. And it's like, I don't know the stories. I don't know the language. I saw the 10 Commandments. Okay. Easter. Yeah, Easter was about baskets and bunnies. I mean, that's all it was for me. And so being pulled on this journey, it's like literally since May of last year, I met somebody who what we think we meet people for, we don't, when we meet each other, like you and I meeting right now, we have a gift for each other. We don't know what that is. It always unveils itself over some point. But like I met a person in Sedona that literally I thought he was going to be like the love of my life. And it turned out after he died, and I found out when somebody talked to him after he passed, that he's there basically to help me write my book, but he's there to connect me to the divine. Yeah. And I'm like, what is that? Because not coming from there.
Well, and that word automatically turns you off because you hear the whole feel that it has about, like, we couldn't even use the word God in our house for a while because we both had such negative experiences with it. We said the universe, but again, it's the same thing, though, right? It's the same thing. So I totally get you.
Yeah, you just don't use the words. And then I met these 2 other people like that I've interviewed. It was Dan Erickson and Maria Elena Mexia, which are both from Monroe, where I met originally, but they have become like my best friends. And then it turns out, like, meeting them, and they are both, I mean, Maria Elena channels God in her healing.
I remember you mentioned that.
Yeah, she's freaking amazing. And I've got the videos I've done with her too. It talks about all of her healing methods, but she channeled God, and I had a conversation with God through Maria Elena. And some of the things God said was clearly it was God. It was like, oh my, nobody else can possibly know that. Right. But it was after those 2 people, it was like, I found this divine connection. It's like they opened me up to where God, and I use the word now, comes through me directly now. It's like I've had the connection, the white light. I've had the experience. So now it's somebody that never used the word God in my entire existence. It's like now, and he is my best friend. And so I love yours. You
And-
have the science and I have the God side.
And
Like,
it just sounds so cliche though, because to people who aren't even in this space, most people's default psychological reaction, and there's a formula for all human emotion that is my favorite. There's a book called Mind Hacking Happiness. It has changed everything. I cannot even function the same way again. If you haven't read, and I can't even remember the name of the author, Mind Hacking Happiness gives you the formula of human psychology in a Sean Webb, my wife said. Sean Webb is his name.
okay.
But if you understand the simple formula for how we respond to things, you'll understand my favorite things, A, B, C, D, absence, blindness, and cognitive dissonance, right? Absence, blindness, what we don't know. And cognitive dissonance is what we do about it once it's uncovered, right? Most people live in a constant state of absence blindness. Everybody does. We don't know what we don't know, right?
Yeah.
And it's our job to uncover that esoteric mystery. It's whatever you want to call it. It's the same thing, but it's our job to discover on whatever terms we want. But that cynicism, that cognitive dissonance is the biggest, I don't know what the word, because I don't really work in good and bad labels. Cognitive dissonance is we identify so much with our cynicism as part of who we are. People even share posts of, oh, I'm this way and I'm this kind of person, and
I'm this way because of this, and this is all it could be. Can't do anything else.
Yeah, so. and that's real, and while I'll say that all things are with purpose, the biggest enlightenment in all things comes through perception of suffering. That Buddha, Christ, you name it, it's all the same story. People wake up quickest through the perception that they're suffering, and the reason why I said perception of suffering, not suffering, is because you realize. Again, Buddha says it best, is pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. You can choose what to suffer. And if you don't, I got to tell this one little story that is so important to me. In my exploration of randomly friending people that resonate with me, you being one of my absolute favorites, there's this gentleman named Lakesh, and he's in India, and he's in one of these groups I'm in. The amount of people will say probably he's completely insane. And for a minute, I questioned it. I'm like, are you insane? But then the more I talked to him, he shared this post and he's sitting out somewhere outside, the sun's shining. He loves having sun in all his pictures. And if you know my hashtag be the light, that's in everything that I do, because we are light beings and our most quantum
things.
We are. So and that also just be what you are and let the universe meet you. So he's sitting there, a big ray of sun over him, and he's holding up his hand. He has just this big grin on his face and this giant knot on his hand. And he had been stung by a wasp or something. And he is just elated. I'm like, oh, shock has set in. This poor man is allergic, isn't he? So he said how, and I can't remember the words. Oh God, I wish I could remember the words, because how he said it was perfect, but how blissful it was to experience. Just to experience. Because if you ask anybody in an enlightenment space, they'll tell you the objective. And I tend to disagree with that one, but to get to a place of non-judgment, right? That's enlightenment, is a place of non-labels and non-judgment. And while that is true, that's just a step. There's more after that. There's experiential, which you can experience and enjoy, but not identify. That's, if you ask me, what's next. But he said how beautiful it was to experience God physically manifest. And that sounds absurd, because you're like, why would a bee stinging you be the holy God talking to you? What is he saying? That's absurd. And it gets into this bigger social conversation of why does God allow, right, of things to happen. And then you realize that God, the creator, the source of all things, call it physics, call it whatever you want to name it, it just is what it is. It's objective. Without our labels, it is just that. I could say this is a bee sting. I could call it a marshmallow. It doesn't make it any less what it is. Right? Yeah. It still is. So then you have to ask yourself, so objectively, this bee sting is a thing that is here, that has these characteristics like ouch, right? But pain, right? That's pain. Pain isn't good or bad.
It just
suffering, yeah, it just is. Now we can choose what to do with that. And so we use this, and the reason why that story is so important to me is we told our kids this story. We sat them down, this is going to sound crazy to a lot of your friends, There's going to be adults who think you're completely absurd.
Yeah, you can't play at their house ever.
Yeah, yeah, and it's so, but all things with purpose. Everybody has their divine time and space to get to where they need to go. Allow them the space and grace to grow, and allow yourself the same. But when something bad happens to you, I want you to reframe it. I want to say, "Ouch, the universe stung me." Right? Just say, "Ouch, the universe stung me," and then say, "Now, what do we do with it?" And we're really big on emotional intelligence. That Mind Hacking Happiness book was the first exposure I've really had to a logical formula for emotional intelligence. That's why I say it's super important. But we kind of say there's 3 stages to all emotions, and all of them have purpose, because it's an alarm system for your physical body trying to draw your attention to something. It's not good or bad. It's objective. It just is.
Yeah.
It is this emotion. So what you do is you feel that emotion because it has purpose. It's there for a reason. Whether it's sadness, whether it's happiness, whether it's love, heartache, it doesn't matter. Just experience and be grateful to have an opportunity to experience something. Because when you know what you know, when you get to these levels of consciousness, you know that that's the entire point. You're here to experience.
Yes.
Period.
Yes.
And that's and that sounds ridiculous. It sounds like I saw in another group, somebody said, "Oh, so you're saying what happens when somebody is raped, or when somebody is this, and when somebody's children is murdered?" And when I was early on in like my consulting and coaching, which I just do openly, that was the hardest question for me to answer without offending somebody, because it's hard to tell them that it's not bad.
Yeah, or if they lose a child, it's like
it's
you
not
lost your
bad.
child. Yeah,
I understand. Like I have children, and they literally drive me. My physical body would crumble under that weight, and I know that, and because I identify, but because I choose to. I choose to allow it to affect me in that way, and I'm thankful for it. And I understand that with all things, there is a risk of loss, children included, and that is not the outcome I want. But I do feel that the investment of love and experience is absolutely worth all inevitable ends. Like, yeah, you could say like, "Oh, well, this person did me wrong, I will never do XYZ again." Well, instead, feel the emotion, find the lesson in it, because there's a lesson in all things,
everything,
and find what that is. And then last step, where everybody gets stuck, is move forward. Like
that's where everybody gets stuck. That's everything. They like getting stuck in their shit. They want to stay in their stuff and like, I haven't.
Yes. Yeah. And so our kids hold us accountable to that same thing. They're like, "Dad, are you upset?" And my daughter's a little empath, and my son is literally a genius. And he's so calculated on things, and she just picks up emotional anything from like before I even know it. She'll be like, "Dad,
bring you a pickle."
No, she'll bring me a pickle. I'm like, "Honey, I'm not upset." She goes, "I know." I'm like, "Why are you bringing me a pickle?" Because she knows I like pickles. And she goes, "I don't know." And then like I end up getting upset about something like a couple minutes later. Is that like Pavlov's dog? I don't know. But either way, she senses that, and she's like, "Okay, well, what's the lesson?" Like,
how old are your kids? How old are these kids?
Time escapes. Carter is 9, about to be 9, 9, and about to be 11 in like next week.
And they already, I mean, the gifts that they are going to bring into their adulthood and how they're going to affect change in this world is beautiful.
Well, it goes
just what you're teaching them.
Well, it comes
what
down
they're
to
learning from you guys.
The whole Dolores Cannon thing. I don't know how many people read about Dolores Cannon. She talks about the 3 waves, and people are like, "Oh, what wave am I?" Well, if I'm born between this age and this age, what people have to understand in physics, time isn't linear. Time isn't in order. They're just objective slides that we experience, and then another slide, like you said, breadcrumbs. Like the slides are these holographic slides. You can read the science on it. The Holographic Universe is a good book, but they just slide our experiences. But who is they, right? And that gets in that bigger, that they is you. It's you. It's your super conscious saying, "Next, come on, don't worry, I've got you. Don't worry, I've got you. I know I've got you because I am you." Right? So I know what's coming next, and I try to explain it as like Super Mario, right? Or a video game.
I just heard the music.
Right?
I hear all the music on my head.
Whatever video game you play, you are both Mario and you playing, right?
Yep.
As above, so below. The same message is everywhere you look. It is everywhere you look.
But how much more effective if Mario could talk?
Yeah, and what we try to get to is, but now how effective could it be if you could get Mario to talk back, right? And tell you what it's doing. And then how can we get Mario to hear us other than dropping breadcrumbs? right? And that's what we're doing. Like we think that we're going to get this coin on our own free will, but our player's saying, and I've realized that is, I think, and again, I'm still relatively new in the consciousness space. I love the science. I'm merging them, but I believe your subconscious is the player. I never get the labels right because I can't understand. But the point being is that you think you're going after these coins, but it's already predetermined that you're going after that coin because there's somebody playing a controller. And if people think that's absurd, there is scientific studies, 100% proven that your subconscious makes a decision 7 seconds before you're actually consciously choose to do something. So if people don't believe in predetermination or higher forms of consciousness, but you believe in science, science says, if this, then that. It's simple. Like you're 7 seconds before you say, hey, JD, how are you doing? Your subconscious already said, hey, you need to ask JD how he's doing. Yeah. So who is they? You, right?
You.
And for people who are cynical about spiritualism and like religion and things like that, the best way to do it is don't have faith in a higher power if you can't. Have faith in yourself. Yeah. Know and trust that this is you. And it knows where you're going. My original started with absurdity. Like I mentioned, my favorite book is Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I love it. It's hilarious. But I started thinking about time travel. And I was like, well, time travel has to be real, right? Like it can't just be a Doctor Who thing. Like, what is the science? Could I figure that out? And so I said, 2 years ago, I even posted on Facebook somewhere. I was like, I'm going to figure out time travel. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to figure out how it actually works from a conceptual standpoint. And my brain, how I function is very logical. And it has to make sense and work, and I have to see it work. And when you start researching time travel, you'll realize that it's not that absurd. It is fairly common. And most people do it every single day and don't even know it, called like Einstein time, where you focus on this moment, very, very, very in tune, 100% focused on this moment, time slows down. Like your perception of time slows down. That's literally time travel. You're manipulating time. Time flies when you're having fun because you're not focused on the present moment. You're focused on all of the superfluous things around you. You're not paying attention to the moment. Time goes by because you're not focused on it because you're manipulating time, your focus of time. But is that time travel? No, but it's a gateway to time travel when you realize that a time machine, the only physical time machine necessary is your physical body. Your physical body does all things. It just does. It is equipped to handle all potential because it is a quantum vehicle. Literally, scientifically, you're just a vibrational condensation. What is the word? You're squished pretty much into this little, like, very dense thing, but you're not that thing. You know, it's like that video game. Like, so when you're just like, okay, well, I don't have to go anywhere because there's no, in a video game, how many hours does it take to walk 5 miles in a video game? 0. There's no miles. Right. Because it's digital. It's a frequency band. It is this. As above, so below. People want to understand reality. Look at pictures and moving pictures, right? Holographic slides of reality in science is a picture. And then we see them linear in front of us, individual holographic slides, which gives us the illusion of time. And that's science. Like, I'm not a scientist, and don't believe me, like, look it up, like, but at least ask, you know. But then you realize that time is non-linear. I can choose my slides, and then you're like, oh my God, manifestation is real. Like, if this, then that. And if the science holds up, me and my wife have this, it's our favorite saying. We're like, what if it's multi-level marketing? It's my favorite saying because we're part of a group that has a layer of like a social marketing to it. And everybody who's part of it is doing very well financially. They're all very educated. They're caring, kind, successful.
They work together.
They all work together. Like, and they all take care of each other. Like, they show up for each other. And I'm like, what if it's multi-level marketing? Well, what if? What if everybody is happy? Who cares what you call it?
Exactly.
And so that's why every time something is too good to be true, when you want to say, well, what if? I say, well, what if? What if it's multi-level marketing? Why not? What if the product is valuable and it makes a difference? A rose is still a rose, no matter what you call it. Like, it's just what it is. So that's
the maybe parable.
The what? Oh, the maybe parable. Like in I call him Mr. Maybe, but it's like an old parable of this monk who was told by one of his followers or whatever it was in that circumstance. Somebody came and said, my daughter said that you got her pregnant. And it's not true.
I love this one. I love this one.
Right. And it's not
totally.
true. Yeah. And it's not true.
Yeah.
And he goes, maybe. And he goes, well, did you? He goes, maybe. And then he gets mad and storms out, and he comes back and goes, she said that she was a lie, that she made it all up to hurt you. And he goes, maybe, but you don't commit to identifying with, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I'm not saying I did. Yeah.
Just maybe.
I love that.
And if you look at quantum physics, when you have these slides, how that works is if you stack up dominoes in, like, say 50 dominoes in multiple rows, but they're evenly placed, and you look at it downward, down below, each one of those dominoes is a holographic slide, right? And that is how to understand your spatial awareness of reality. And this is science. Look it up. Like, we can call it quantum theory. We can use the word theory if that makes people feel better. Cool. Either way, look it up and learn. But you can pick the slide out of the potential, out of that group of things. You're like, I want to experience this one next. And what was the name? Can't think of the name, but he says that reality is a movie. It is the greatest movie. Your life is the greatest movie that has ever been played. And it was written by you. So it's the greatest writer of all time. You have written the perfect story. Every character in it is you. And you get to play every single character. So every character will be the best version of that because it's you. You wrote it. It's your movie. You played the characters. The audience will always love it because the audience is you, right? You're also the audience. You are all things manifest to experience yourself. So when you let go and realize that this is Shakespearean, like all the world is a stage, quantum physics, all things are varying degrees of the same vibrational frequency, or parabolically, we are just an actor acting out this life. In the end, when the curtain closes and the bows are over, you look around and realize that everybody was just you, and all of it was for you to just feel what it could be like to live out any and every potential outcome, right? Like, if you were God, and God is this infinite energy that has no time or reality constraints, if it can do anything, if that was you, and it is, for the record, what would you do? Well, I would want to know what all I could be. What's the point of potential without experience?
Yep.
Like, what's the point of knowing you can do something and then just never doing it?
Yeah.
But that in itself is the experience too. There's a duality. Like, we experience reality and ourselves through the eyes of others. And that's, if you don't want to count the spiritual part of it, let's talk about the psychology of it, of what your reaction to something I say isn't a reflection of me. You don't know what I'm thinking. You don't know my intentions. It's a reflection of how you feel about yourself, right?
Yeah. Everything is.
But as above, so below. So of course it is.
There are so many things you've said that are like, oh my God, I say that all the time. I say that all the time.
I didn't use the chicken sandwich analogy yet. Don't give me that. This is my last little thing because this
well, the wife said it. She knows it's a good one. So it's got to be shared.
It is something in my state of allowance, which I said is kind of my journey now, is once you get past being, and then it's allowing things to do without judgment, is really hard for me. Like, it's really hard, especially because I know a lot of things.
Yeah.
And then I'm faced with this subjectiveness that I also know what I don't know. And so I want to, like, yell at people. Like, you want to yell at people. You're like,
oh, I know. You just want to shake them. Like, come on.
Like, I'm not, like, people are getting angry at me. Literally, like, I'm getting anger pointed at me for saying this stuff. I'm like, I understand why you're frustrated. I have grace and space for all things. I understand that this is pushing back on something you identify with. And then that makes them angry because then you're telling them who they are. And then I'm like, but you have to know that I didn't invent this. This is just science. I'm reporting my observations.
They just don't want to know. They're not ready for the way it can change their life.
It was so hard. And finally, there was literally a point that I was like, I broke down. I'm talking about, I am in bed. I'm having a panic attack. I'm crying. I can't get it together. I'm like, I can't save anybody. Like I
No,
feel
you
like I'm
can't.
here to do something and I don't know what it is. And my whole life, when you say like you feel like you're here with purpose, then obviously you're a narcissist or whatever those labels are. It was really hard for me to figure out a way to get my mind to let other people be wrong. You know, before you get into the subjective nature of things, how do you let
Right.
people be wrong when you know that it's wrong? And my wife said that chicken shouldn't judge an egg on its ability to be a chicken sandwich. And I always say that's hilarious because we're vegetarians. But
I'm like,
but
I'm still there. I
but
love
so in this scenario, I'm the chicken sandwich, or I'm the chicken, right? I shouldn't judge an egg on its ability to be something that I'm not yet either. One, the egg has purpose. It's if it was anything else, it wouldn't be an egg. It wouldn't even be a chicken. It would be something else. An
Right.
egg is perfect at doing egg things, right? That's what it's for. A
Yeah.
chicken was once an egg. So it should have sympathy and understanding because it knows what it's like to have to start from nothing, to break through, to accomplish something that it doesn't even know how to do. It should have understanding, not judgment. And lastly, none of them have even reached their full potential yet to even know what is or isn't on purpose, you know, like, so that's why we say like a chicken shouldn't judge an egg on its ability to be a chicken sandwich. Like it's that
I
simple.
love that.
But it allows for allowance and it allows for you to try to at least stop yourself from reacting for just a second to think about a silly ass chicken sandwich story and step back. Because one of the things we've learned in our journey is like the human IQ drops around, I don't know the exact number, but I heard around 30% when you respond emotionally to something. So when you're responding emotionally, which is our given response when somebody is wrong, you're like, I've got to save you. And that sounds ridiculous to a lot of people, but we know the service to self and service to others type mindsets. But like for service to others, our instant mindset is, I've got to save you. Why won't you let me save you?
Yeah.
Like what? I'm trying. What? Why won't you hear me?
Yeah.
And then that gets into that frequency that their vibration is just at a level, not better or worse, just polarized.
Just different. Yeah.
It just can't, and that's okay because at least exposure will create that message, that seed.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah, light
planting
seeds.
the seed. That's all we're here to do. We just plant the seed.
So,
and that's one of the things on my journey. My website is changing the world by planting one seed at a time. And it's like, and that's, we plant them and we can't know how they grow. We most likely don't. And then we just, that's, so the way I live my life now is just 4 different things. I live in allowance always. I'm in surrender. I'm in gratitude always.
Such a good word.
And gratitude. It's like gratitude. And then it's like, I get these daily miracles and then I'm overwhelmed with gratitude and it just rinse, repeat. Once you get here, but it's like, there's so like the man, my ex-husband who's here, I'm moving out of this house and next Friday, I'm in my own house. It's like, his life is like this. And he doesn't want to know anything that I know because he knows.
It pushed back on this bubble.
Yeah. It's like, if I open that up, it's like they're not ready for the way it's going to change their life.
No.
And that's 90% of the population. They just want to stay this and they want to go clock in, clock out. They want to go to concerts and dinner parties.
Clock in, clock out? Like a chicken? Is that a chicken reference? No, but like for real, but
I love
it's frustrating to see, especially from people who have already been through that journey. And you're like, but guys, you don't have to.
Yeah.
Like, but it gets absurd because they don't hear it the same way you're saying it. Their consciousness interprets it differently.
Yeah.
And they didn't hear what you said. They heard what they heard.
Yeah, exactly.
And then just saying, okay, cool. Okay. You know, be an egg. Be an egg. It's okay.
Be an egg and roll away. Yeah.
And eggs are beautiful. Like they're perfectly symmetrical. They are great.
Not less than chicken.
Yeah, they're no less than a chicken. If anything, they are what all chickens
They are
have in
potential.
common.
They're potential.
Potential. Yes, exactly.
They're potential.
Yeah. So
wow. How exciting meeting you and talking to you. So what is your business that you're creating?
Yeah.
What is it you're promoting? Share that so people can support you and help you on this journey.
So honestly, I am about to launch the system that I mentioned that 2 years ago, we started building this system that can let anybody start an online business. And I'm not promoting that. What I'm promoting is the whole reason that I did that in the first place, which is so I could build one for all of us. And I'm trying to build one and I have it right now under modernagealchemist.com. Depending on when you're watching this, it may not be live yet, but it should be here
Well, the
relatively.
links will all be in the information
Cool.
below. So when it is live, just keep clicking.
Cool.
Okay.
Yep. And Modern Age Alchemist, and what it is I'm trying to create an online resource for all things in this space where people can find it in one space, because I say that I'm a reporter. That's kind of what my one thing has been, is to observe and report. And I'm good at understanding conceptually and sharing it and teaching it. And even better, my wife has been a teacher her whole life. So we know that our calling is to share the journey. And I'm a technical person and I can create pretty much anything. I'm like, well, where are we going to share it? And how can we do that most effectively? And from a marketing standpoint, how can we reach the most people? Because all of the things that businesses do now that are being villainized for being capitalist, blah, 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 well, we can judge them, or we can understand them, learn them, and use them to get our own message out there, because villainry only wins when good men do nothing, or something is, I believe, the thing. So why don't we use everything we know about marketing, business, teaching, and consciousness? And what if we try to get it all in one place where anybody can find it, add their own stuff to it, make it's my favorite word, make a living library. A living library of consciousness. And that's where we started 2 years ago. And our first iteration of it will be Modern Age Alchemist. And I know we're starting off right now. It's just going to be a free platform, and we're going to eat the costs at first, just to get people to get the message out, to just talk about it. That's it.
Right.
We don't want to change anybody's mind. I don't want anybody to believe me. I don't care. That's okay. Like, I love you. It's great. But my job is to just be. And to use what I've been given to make the biggest vibrational shock I can. And it was really hard for me to use this word, but I will use it now because it is accurate. Like, I am literally a genius. Like, I am a genius, and I know marketing and I know business, and call it, again, trauma response, autism, it doesn't matter. I'm really good at this specific set of stuff. And I have found that ongoing message that says, do this. And as long as I do that, people like you are showing up. And just like the more that you shine, like I use the word shine, but your frequency scientifically attracts like-minded people.
Absolutely.
And at some point, you don't even have to shine a lot. You just have to just have a moment and trust that in that moment of grace that you've given yourself, the right person was there who needed that, and you may never even know. Every psychic I've ever talked to says, I know you're tired, but get used to it. You are just here to help people, and most of them will leave. Like, just trust that and know that that's okay. And that is what I found relatively true, is that when I first met my wife, one of the first things she said to me was, it's okay, everybody leaves. And that's what I had always said that. I was like, everybody leaves. Yeah. And so, but that message is always there. And I think if I can give like one suggestion to everybody, I would love people to come to our website. I just care that people talk about this, period. Even if they disagree, talk about it. Yeah. Because if we talk about it, then even if I'm wrong, like I said, I'm not a scientist. Like, I understand concepts.
Your mom on her book club.
Oh, my mom, my mom is a perfect example of how this works for us, for all of us. My mom is, Episcopalian, and she's very ingrained in her church. She has traveled like the world and helped and all this stuff. She, in her book club, she has her Christian book club last night, was teaching them about mindfulness, about what energy healing is, and how that's not a bad thing, that God created that too. And it's my mom. It's like, how's my 60? I don't know. But she has been this religion, this belief system so ingrained, but all I had to do is just be me. You know what I mean? And that's it. I just had to be. And guess what she's doing now? She's going out and she's just being.
She's spreading the word.
But people are getting held up on that label of Christianity.
That's just the whole thing. I know. That's everything. It's like the labels of everything.
It doesn't matter.
There is no good, bad.
It doesn't matter. Just, is it making you feel better? And is it raising the objective frequency? Not is it good on my terms as I define it? Is the overall feeling of love, and that gets into a whole different discussion of what love is, but in this most fundamental form, it's harmony. That is the word that humans give to love. is being in harmony. And when you get into like the Monroe Institute and you get into those states of consciousness where you are this vibrational state, like you can physically feel it, that things are just perfect and over, like, I don't even know how else to say it. It's not even like a sexual orgasmic, but that's also similar in nature because it's unity, but like that's love. It's feeling complete, right? What is love? It's feeling complete. And what do we all want? To be complete.
Feel complete,
And that if you want to know, like, what's the meaning of life? And return back to the source. Circle, complete. Right?
Rinse, repeat.
It's the same thing. So the main reason that I was really excited to be on this with you is I'm so grateful to see so many people talking about it. And it's hard. And it's still hard now. It's not as hard as it used to be. Like, I can't imagine what it was like, you know, for the people in the 50s or 60s who this wasn't even go back to Spanish Inquisition. Like, you know, like we are living in an unprecedented time of change that is physically and scientifically measurable. And I am thankful that the people that I've met in this journey are absolutely extraordinary, and that is you in literally every sense of the word. I really appreciate you, and
thank you,
allowing me to share what I'm doing, and hopefully it helps somebody else, and if not, it's out there.
That's just it. It's like there's what you're doing is so important. What I'm doing is getting you out there, like with talking to Marc. Like, there's so many things you were saying, like when I had my conversation with Dan Erickson, he was like, he's doing the research of the Monroe archives. Like, we're talking all the Explorer tapes. There's 30 Explorer tapes that are in the archives that everybody can access, like, at any time and listen. They're fascinating. But Dan is doing every single tape that has ever been done. He's listening, he's deciphering, he's documenting. And that's where on one of the Monroe Club, that's where he's breaking down these focus levels. But it's
the amount of genius that's coming together for this. Like,
but it's all these different people that are coming together that, like, that is what he brings to the party. And like, this is your strength, your genius strength, which saying you're a genius at what you're doing, that's beautiful. And that's okay. It's like, I'm a genius at what I'm doing. It's just, we all have this thing that we're here to do, to bring as many of us together.
Yes.
Because we're here collectively to wake all the 90% up that are just like going through the motions, who are blinded.
Shift it up. And I think what we're getting to is in the stage that, like, where we're at in that, I think it's going to be very important for the people who are here to, like, be the light, to raise that frequency, is to also not get caught up in judging the people you're trying to save for. I'll say it, like, I have been so angry. I'm like, why is everybody so stupid? But they're not. I'm just angry because I feel helpless. And then you want to blame something, so it's not you. So my new, call it, I remember this phrase, like, it just came out of me out of nowhere, but grace and space has been the phrase that I use. Grace and space for all things, yourself included. Period.
I love that.
Allow grace and space for others to find their path on their own terms, in their own time. And don't get caught up. It's not a reflection of you if somebody else doesn't make that choice. You did your part. And if
that's all you can do.
And if they've moved on, then that was that scene, you know, that curtain closes and one curtain opens, or one door, it doesn't matter. Same thing, right?
Assume you'll never hear from them again, but just know you planted that seed with grace.
You did your part.
You did. And you moved on. And sometimes they come back and they call and say, let's get together. And you get to see that you planted that seed and it became this big, beautiful rose bush.
And luckily for how things are now, we're starting to see that change already reflected on a little bit more of a global scale. I won't say global, because there's still more of that negative polarity that's there. And it is relatively overwhelming, but it comes back to what we were saying, that enlightenment happens through perceived suffering. So the Renaissance happened after the Black Plague, like all things with purpose, and the universe is going to sting you. But we both want to say, because we've both been talking about this since I talked to you, how excited I was to even, it sounds weird, but just to be heard. It feels good. And I know what you said.
I get it.
I don't stop and think that I do. There are people that follow. It's not like hundreds and thousands. And somebody used to ask me, like, how come more people aren't following you than you should? Because the right people are. The right people,
the ones who need to, and the ones who resonate with you, and they're going to go share the message. They're there. And So
Yeah, so I
My
appreciate you. Thank
uploading's
you.
on 42%. I just.
We're
opened it.
uploading a file and it's at 42%. right now.
42%.
And I am very, very, and I use this word, actually, I rarely use it, but I'm using it a lot on this call, but I'm very grateful to know you. I really am. And you have given me a lot to unpack, because again, I came into this saying, wait till she sees my Google Drive of PDFs. And what you have is, if we could only find somebody who knows how to build a system that you can put all of these things. I don't know.
I wonder who
But-
that could be.
I don't know, but thank
Well,
you so much for.
Thank you.
letting
Well,
me
thank
ramble.
you for joining
Yes.
me. I actually really appreciate it. I finally
you.
met somebody who's matched me energetically.
Cool. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. And I will.